But you guys can't see me on the. There we go. Okay, cool. So first things first is when we're looking at the relative trend of what is going on here, the first thing we have to look for is a potential um setup to forming on a larger perspective, right? So as the entirety of this uptrend was forming, we had a nice set of ABCs here, and we actually did get our larger pullback. Originally, I was looking for a much larger dip to the downside, and it absolutely can still happen. But at the moment, because of the pump and what we're going through as of right now, I have a bias of what could be going on. But at first, we were looking for an ABC within a C wave short position. I actually just got stopped out of that this morning. And because of where BTC could be heading, I'm actually ditching this position. So I am not taking this position anymore. We have a new position that we could talk about, which I will mention here shortly. But pretty much this ABC gave us a much larger pullback, a much larger separation of trend. Right. And from there, that actually helps me conclude that this is a much larger A to a larger B to a potential C. Right. So, with that being said, if this wave puts in a higher high than the previous high, and we cannot make a stronger push to the upside, and we actually do end up reclaiming that level, that is going to be a very important and crucial shorting point for me. The only reason why I say this is because, in my opinion, this is going to be the last significant pivot for shorts that pretty much, um, yeah, I mean, I can't think of any other way to describe it, but this is the most significant level to short, in my opinion. And I think throughout this entirety of this uptrend, this is the largest, most significant ABC that I've seen as a potential reversing pivot, or also a reversing setup or possible reversal setup. So for me, it's it's hard for me to look for any other possible setups in the meantime. This is the one that sticks out to me the most as the potential short setup. I am also bullish, possibly in the longer term. We could talk about here that we could talk about that here in a moment. But just letting you guys know, I posted updates in my group. I posted updates in David's group. If you guys go to my section of the Discord as well as general chat, I let you guys know what the trades I'm taking. So I already, I posted it out there, but I just wanted to clarify and explain it a little bit more why I think this way. And the last thing I want to explain too is the only reason why I think this is the last hoorah for the shorts, in my opinion, is once we push past this pivot, the only real resistance we have is about at 32,450, right? From there, there is no significant resistance on the way up, in my opinion, based on what I see off of local highs until we get to about 48K. Now, do I think we're going to go exactly to 48K? Possibly. I like to kind of front run it and give you guys a little bit more of a cushion. So, like, realistically, probably like 46K is definitely in the cards. We could definitely overshoot it as well, but this is kind of a general guideline of a area of resistance I'm looking for. So for me, going back in price chart history, I really don't see anything significant past 32,450. So even if we can come up here, get a rejection, and we do actually end up falling back below our previous pivot of the A here, that would be a good short position. That would be the last actual setup I'd be willing to take to look for a larger push to the downside. Am I overall bearish? Not really. The only reason why I'm still bearish is because of how the timing of everything is playing out. I am not necessarily a perma bear or perma bull. To me, it's all about timing to an extent, because the Bitcoin halving is the most significant supply and demand shock that actually dictates the flip between bear markets and bull markets, in my opinion. To me, 3 to 6 months after the halving is usually the sweet spot to where BTC likes to overall switch to a larger bullish environment. And to me, we're just not there yet. The halving is about a little bit less than a year away. I want to say like 11 months, maybe a year. I've heard two different dates, but if based on the dates that I've heard, it's about 11 months from now. So because of the timing of where we're at and how that correlates to the chart, it doesn't really make sense for me to be a little bit too bullish. I'm not looking for any new all-time highs anytime soon. But that always comes when I say that if that does happen, I will absolutely admit I was wrong, fall on that sword. You know, it definitely will dictate something different is happening, which we could talk about if we do get to that point. But we're not currently there yet. But for me, I don't see any other reason to be bullish besides that, or at least too bullish, I would say. We definitely can go up and test 48K, and that would be a significant resistance area, and I wouldn't mind that at all. But I think my overall mindset is going to change if we do go ahead and test 48K. I personally think that if we are going to test those highs or those higher levels, that I think considering a lower low past 15K is out of the cards. Um, I think even with this bearish ABC, that's the larger one that's potentially forming, does have a potential to still carry us down to lower. And that can actually segue us into the macro perspective, which I want to touch on here briefly, just to show you guys where I'm coming from. So when I'm looking at the larger time frame, and when I'm looking at the oh, that's not what I wanted. There you go. When I'm looking at the macro time frame and I'm looking at what could be going on and the possibilities of how the structure is playing out and what we could be looking for in the future. I like to start out from the beginning or the end of a trend, the beginning of a new trend. Oh, and we can go ahead and I forgot what's the hotkey for. There we go. Um, we can go ahead and talk about what is developing in this region. So first things first, when I start off on the larger time frame, we have an ABC to an A, ABC to a B, ABC to a C. Now, the question is this the beginning or the end of something? I always say this a lot, but this is something I take into consideration when I trade or when I go into my smaller time frames on how I trade my TA, as well as when I look at the actual larger perspective of what could be going on. I also take this into consideration. The largest question that I like to ask is this, or the most important question I like to ask is this the beginning or the end of something? Right. What I mean by that is something you'll find a lot more common on smaller time frames, but it can happen on a larger or macro time frame. Is that sometimes you might have an ABC, right? And it actually will play into your favor at first, but it'll end up finding support or resistance depending on which direction you're trading, and it'll actually continue. And what it actually will happen from there, and it'll turn into its own separate new ABC, right? It's something like this. So this is something that absolutely can happen on a larger time frame, but it's a lot more common on a smaller time frame. So when I draw these scenarios out, that's one of the questions I like to ask and think of alternatives of what could be going on. Like I said before, is this I'm sorry, is this ABC the end or the beginning of something? Right. If this is the end of something, right, we are possibly looking at a ABC to an A. All right. Remember, if we go ahead and continue to push up to 48K, I'll have to wait to see how it responds at these higher levels. But at the moment, we do have one more possible high or one more swing to the highs to form a larger ABC. This could be a larger A wave that's forming. We can get a larger B wave. All right. Maybe go ahead and test 20K for a nice little retest of support and then talk about continuation higher. Hopefully, we'll get a nice ABC in between each one of these potential positions, something like that. That'll be a nice setup, but it doesn't have to happen. But overall, I'm looking for something like this. That if this is going to be a much larger bullish picture, we do have to. I'm telling you, I always say this. In order for us to be bullish, we do have to come down and test supports. In my opinion, we haven't tested any significant supports yet. Maybe you can making an argument for around 25.2. That was definitely a area that was considered a good resistance to support flip. I will say that that was a good retest, but I think we need to retest some of the local lows. So 19.5 is in the cards, maybe 17K, 16, 17K, possibly the low. But, like I said before, as if we continue to progress higher, the likeliness that we're actually going to go ahead and retest those lows are going to be a lot less significant, in my opinion. So for me, A to B to a C, this would be the bullish case scenario. The most bullish case scenario I would say is that we just keep going. All right. Eventually make a run to 48K. Maybe put in some sort of larger ABC pullback here. All right. And then make a new stretch to new highs. And potentially consider a bull run. But I think if this is going to happen, that this pullback needs to be exaggerated a little bit. And we do need to go ahead and test supports, like I mentioned before. Maybe actually come back down and test 19K. That is definitely in the cards. But that's more of the larger term time frame for the bullish side. The bearish side of things is that this ABC that I mentioned here before is actually the beginning of something. Right. So we're looking at this ABC for a larger A. We're looking at the current possible ABC developing as a larger B. And we can actually talk about possibly testing lower for a lower C wave. Now, at the moment, we do not have that higher high, so a short position is not currently on the table yet. I have my alert set up just to get me ready, just in case. But at the moment, that is the most bearish case scenario. And to me, as price develops, we'll have to see how it responds to this ABC setup that we have potentially forming. If we can get a larger rejection, that'll kind of help me. That'll kind of paint a larger picture to show that we can possibly test lower. But if we continue to just keep going and we just push right past these resistance levels, I'm going to have to take this off the table. But we're not necessarily there just yet. So that is the larger term picture. And like I said, I'll go back down to a smaller time frame just to recap real quick. But pretty much, like I mentioned before, earlier in the stream, is that regardless of how you're looking at this, we do have a potential A to a B to a C wave short setup forming. So for me, depending on how it responds, I am most definitely looking for this pump to continue. I don't see a reason why we would stop here, but who am I to say exactly what's going to happen? That's not my job. Our job here is just to identify the setups and take them as they form. So hopefully, like I said, we can get a larger response or have price respond to this larger ABC and see what happens. But if we can push straight through it and push right past 32K as well, I'll mark that as an important resistance. Then we can start talking about 48K. But at the moment, this is going to be a heavy area of resistance. So we'll have to see how price responds once we get back up here. Another thing to mention as well is I did mention this in both my group and David's group. I am currently also long off of this ABC. I took this position and basically anticipating higher. Just in case the bullish count is right and we are going to keep pumping, to me, this is the setup that it would absolutely respect and do so off of. And we got I think we got one stop out so far. I believe. Let me just double check. Yeah. Yeah, we got stopped out once. So this is a trade I got stopped out once on, and I'm looking for much higher. Like I mentioned before, I'm looking for 48K. So we'll see how price responds once we get up to those areas of resistance. That's going to be a nice 25 risk to reward ratio trade. Love to see it. That's going to be a monster trade for me. Hopefully that plays out. But worst case scenario, like I said, for the Bears, we do have this short position forming up here. And to me, this is going to be a last line of defense. If price can't hold below these areas of resistance, I'm looking for higher. But I will take a short, anticipating much lower, just in case as well. So yeah, I'll mark out the levels. Hope maybe if you guys keep up with how I do things or ABCs in general, maybe hopefully you guys had a chance to take that. I let you guys know in advance that I was preparing for this position, and I did take this position. So hopefully, some of you guys took that trade as well. But love to see this kind of price action, and instead of this sideways garbage. Let's do ETH. All right, so ETH is in a similar position on a larger time frame. And let me just start off with a clean slate. So for ETH, starting at the same area, which is the end of the previous bull market, the beginning of this bear market. We have to identify possible setups, possible structures, and talk about what could happen, or yeah, what are the possibilities of what could happen next. So we do have an ABC here. The question is this the beginning or the end of something? In my opinion, if this is going to be the beginning of something, right, we have an A with a nice larger B wave forming, right, with its own ABC within a possible B. If this is going to be a lot more bearish in the longer term, we do have to keep below 2032. I'll talk about the resistances that we have to look at when we go into the smaller time frame, but we did put in that larger setup. So if we can respect that 2032, worst case scenario, we are looking for a lower low past the previous low around 879, 878. So for me, that's going to be a potential buying pivot if we do actually end up trending that low. But there are variations to what could be going on. But that is the worst case, most bearish case scenario for ETH, in my opinion. I'll mark out these levels though, because they are important. So the bullish case is going to be at this ABC that I mentioned before is actually the end of the bear market. And we're looking at possibly a larger A to a B, right, which is still going to give us a C wave. But this current setup that we're in is actually a part of a larger A to a B to a C, right? If we do reclaim that 2032 level, I think you can make a very strong argument that we can, once you break not the 2032, the previous high is around 2153. Once you break that high, then you can make a argument to go ahead and test resistance at about 3570. So I'd say best case scenario at the moment, we start making a larger push. Eventually, that'll potentially lead to a larger pullback. But overall, I don't see for the most bullish case scenario that we don't even go ahead and test 1070. That the low is in and we eventually continue to slowly trend back to the upside. There's more of a middle of the road option. The middle of the road option is one of two things. Is that either this is part of an ABC, right? And we're getting some sort of A to a B to a C scenario, or we have to go ahead and put in one more high for this ABC. Right. And the B wave is still considered a viable option. All right. But instead of putting in new lows, we'll go ahead and put in a much larger downtrend, testing different lower areas of support, maybe back down to 1370, somewhere around there, hopefully to form its own ABC. Then we could talk about potentially going higher. But that's kind of the middle of the road option that I have that is a little bit more bullish in the shorter term, bearish in the medium term, bullish in the longer term. So yeah, that's the larger perspective. Let's talk about the more relevant time frames. All right, so we have that short around the 2032. Okay, and if we do go ahead and look at the more zoomed in perspective of what could be going on, in my opinion, we do have a very nice A to a B to a C scenario. All right, this is also another long position I'm taking. So I'm short from 2030, and I'm also taking a long from this level here at around 1730. I think my entry was off 1738, 1740, somewhere around there. I did not get the exact bottom, but I got a really good entry. So at the moment, I'm currently long off of this setup to play into the larger possibility that we're going up higher, as well as I'm still remaining short just in case this is just a retest and we do continue lower. Like I mentioned before, our job isn't to necessarily predict exactly what's going to happen. Our job is to identify the opportunities ahead of us, take the trades as necessary, and hopefully we can get a larger potential swing in either direction. That's the goal, is to catch the larger move, and hopefully we can make the most out of it. But that's pretty much it for Ethereum. Let's do. I want to do ADA real quick. Okay, because ADA is almost at the the next local ABC. So for ADA, we had a very, very nice short setup. I'm not sure if anyone here caught this, but this was a fantastic A to a B to a C. And I said this was most likely going to be part of a larger setup. So we've been A to a B to a C scenario, and we needed to break the lowest low in order for us to complete this setup and consider be a lot more, potentially longer term bullish on ADA. And because of the news and all that was going on, that did happen. Luckily for us, and hopefully some of the guys who potentially took this trade, we were anticipating this way beforehand. The goal, that's basically how we do things. That's the reason why we're able to get such good trades, is that we anticipate these setups ahead of time. We take the trades trying to play into these larger setups. And this is a perfect example of that. No one was expecting ADA to get back down to 24 cents. But we talked about that as a possibility for the worst case scenario. So now that that's happened, am I completely bullish on ADA? I'm starting to be a little bit more bullish just because of this setup completing, as well as being part of the larger macro potential ABC that we can actually, I'll touch on that real quick. Now, to me, I forgot how I did this. Is this separation larger than this one? It's about the same. So I'm gonna go with this. All right, so that was actually part of a larger A wave. We had the retracement for a B wave, and we got our continuation lower for a C wave. That's going to be our completed ABC. So for me, you could have taken that entry. I did. I did not get the best entry. I think I got around like 24.20, somewhere around there. I don't remember exactly where my entry was, but I did get the best entry. I know that for a fact. But so I'm currently long on ADA. And to be honest, this is going to be a swing trade. Most likely, even if we do put in a larger dump on BTC in the near future, in my personal opinion, if we do continue to the upside, I personally don't think we're going to revisit new lows. I could be wrong, but I personally don't think as of now we can't visit new lows. So to me, this is a position I'm going to be holding for a very long time. Potentially, if ADA ever makes a run, or if we can hold this till the next bull run, that's going to be a monster trade for me. So I'm excited to see what I can do, or see what that position can do with current price action. If I zoom in a little bit more, I want to talk about the smaller time frame. All right, we had the bullish setup that I mentioned, but as price is developing in this region here, one of the biggest things that I'm looking for is a continuation setup. Right, and this is a perfect example of a continuation setup because I'm still currently holding that short entry. I did not take profit. So what a continuation setup is, all right, let's say you take a larger ABC short for this example. All right, you get the entry, price goes in your favor. Something like that. All right, and eventually price makes a rebound. What is going to happen with the continuation setup is that I am actually going to be looking for another ABC at a lower price point to give me another area to potentially short into. Right. So once the A and the B forms, I'm waiting for price to basically reclaim the level of the A. So once it does, I'm going to take profit. So if we keep going up, I don't miss out on any potential more profits that I can lose by just waiting. But if we come up and go ahead and put in a new ABC setup and we continue to fall back down, I'm going to take that potential short and looking for a continuation lower, just in case that we're not done. The best part of this is, unfortunately, you aren't going to actually be able to nail the bottom, but this gives you the highest confidence setup to take profit, to make the best trade possible, as well as take another possible continuation downward. So for me, that's been one of the biggest things is at the moment, especially after we get a large move in our favorite direction, is look for a continuation setup. So with that being said, if I go back to current price action on ADA, very similar to the example I just drew, we had a very large ABC short setup that played out in our favor. All right, we found good support, we found a bounce, and now if you look, if I zoom in a little bit more, go to 30-minute just to make this a little bit more pronounced. All right, if I go to a 30-minute, we do have a nice A to a B to a C scenario. All right, this is a continuation setup. So for me, if price can reclaim that high, which we almost did, I'm still looking for a reclaim of that level. But as soon as price tests that previous high, I'm gonna take profit, as well as if price can get above and then reclaim the level back below, that is a potential short position for me to take advantage of as well. So that's gonna be a continuation setup I'm looking for. So if you guys are still holding shorts like me, this is where I'm looking to get out. Not financial advice. We don't give financial advice on this channel. Um, but that is a possible area of continuation for me. And then let's do, I'm trying to think of what else that I'm missing. Let's do BNB. Unless anybody else, does anybody here have any coins you want me to look at? Please let me know. But BNB is a popular one here. All right, so let's start out on the clean slate. All right, so for BNB, it looks like we have a potential ABC for an A, an ABC for a B, and a larger A to a B to a C to a lower low. That is the bearish case scenario. So we need to go ahead and put it one more low, reclaim, and then we can talk about much higher price levels. But we're currently not just there. We're not there yet. Another thing to consider, which is kind of more of the bullish option, is that maybe this ABC, which I mentioned before, is actually the end of the bear market for ADA. Let's see, that's going to be A to a B to a C. So as long as you're above that level, that is a good level to possibly be or to be long on a potential continuation higher. We do have a possibility of this becoming a larger A to a B. Wait, did we get a lower low? I'm not sure if we did. I'll have to double check that. But possible A to a B to a C wave there. I'm just gonna wait for hopefully when we zoom into our smaller perspective, I'll be able to let you guys know we put in that lower low. But that is also a potential good buying position. At around 220. We put in that lower low? Oh, we did not. All right, so that's actually going to be the B wave. And this is going to be its own ABC within. I'm not the biggest fan of this setup, but I will absolutely consider this as a larger possible bullish option. All right. We do have the possibility that even though price action does look pretty bullish at the moment, if 88 puts in that higher 350, 380, and a potentially higher at around 397.50, those are going to be potential bearish pivots for ADA. So if you want to take the short positions up at those higher regions, you absolutely can, just in case. At the moment, there really is no bullish position. I know some people shorted 80 BNB. I almost said 88 again. I know some people shorted BNB at around 337.80. That was a good short setup. If you guys did short that, we do have a possible. We actually did put in a continuation setup. So we put in a ABC of its own within a smaller time frame. That would have been a fantastic pivot or a fantastic point to take profit on and possibly re-enter if you're looking to re-enter that trade. But besides that, I really don't see anything else for BNB. Yeah, those are going to be the larger setups, the larger levels. around 353. Got to make this a little bit more clear for you. 353 and then 398. All right. Maybe we'll do one more. Do you guys have any other coins you want me to look at? KSM. What exchange is? What's the best exchange for that? Let's see. Binance. Okay. All right. So let's do KSM. So, okay. All right. I like what I see so far. All right. So this looks like a one very elongated ABC here, A to a B to a C, with its own ABC within the C. I do like this a lot as a good potential bullish pivot. I really don't see a bearish option at the moment, so that's good. There you go. When I zoom in, all right, if this is completed, like I mentioned before on that larger wave, we needed to get back below. Can't tell which is this is the lower low. We need to get back below and reclaim this level at about 2155, and it did. So we put in a bullish ABC. This would have been a good potential buying slash longing position. I don't know anything about this coin. All I know is based off the charts, it looks pretty good. So as of now, things are looking pretty decent. With the larger structure being put in, there is a potential for a even larger reversal. So we can definitely pump up higher. Just keep in mind the resistance levels on the way up. Those are definitely significant. So I don't know if you're a short-term trader or you want to try to hold this for a longer swing trade. I'm more of a swing trader, so I'm going to be when I'm taking these types of trades, I'm looking for much higher. So I'd probably look for 39, 49, if not higher, because we definitely can consider this a start of a new bullish trend. Let's see. Long term, I bought at 26. Okay, that's not bad. That's not bad. I would say this is definitely if you're looking to hold this coin's in a good position at the moment. Um, as of right now, I don't know if we could reverse off of this and continue a little bit lower, but to be honest, I'm not that confident that we're gonna actually put in a much larger significant dump. I think on a coin like this, we could definitely find some stability at a little bit lower, but I can't really talk about that because we are pretty bullish as the structure shows. So as long as we're above 2150, that's going to be actually a 2155. That's going to be the bullish area that I'm looking for this coin to hold. But from there, definitely look for higher. Thanks for your advice. No problem, my friend. Like I said, it's not I don't like that. We don't give financial advice on this channel. But I'll let you. Those are my recommendations if I was in your shoes. All right. Let's go over to traditional markets. Let's start off with the DXY because I know the DXY is important when it comes to TA. Understanding where the DXY is at can kind of help understand what BTC could be doing. At the moment, we do have a potential. This looks like we put in an ABC for an A. We put in a B wave, or maybe put in one more low. That is the setup that sticks out the most to me. Another potential idea is that we did have this ABC down here. All right, and we're still currently above it, so maybe we're getting some sort of larger A to a possible larger B to a C. The most important thing that's going to dictate which setup this is going to respect is if it can cross back below this previous low. If we cross back below this previous low, that's going to be potentially the larger structure, which I mentioned before. It's the first option. But until then, I really don't have. There's no bear setups. The only thing I will acknowledge is the idea that I might have to go to a 2-day. Hold on. Let's see. 2-day. Where is it? Okay, it's this one here. Oh, I gotta sneeze. Hold on a second, guys. Gotta mute my mic for a second. Oh, excuse me. Let me go grab some tissues quick. I'm so sorry. That was a lot messier than I thought it was gonna be. Give me 1 second, guys. Hold on. Sorry about that, guys.
No problem.
All right. Okay. So going back to what I was saying before, apologize for that. But basically, for the DXY, the only bearish pivot that I can consider is a larger macro ABC. All right, we have an ABC within an ABC. My thing is that since the C has significantly pumped past the pivot of the A, I'd look for a smaller ABC within the C. And so what I will acknowledge is that we are kind of dancing around this bearish pivot. So we absolutely have a chance to break lower. So if the DXY does maintain to stick below the 103 and can actually get back below $100, which is the previous bullish setup, and continue downwards, I'm going to be a lot more inclined to look for much lower areas for the DXY. So it really depends on what happens in this region. I can tell based on how this is forming, we could get some sort of squeeze to where we just eventually, even though we have an initial downside, retest. Looks like we might just kind of just do something like this, maybe put in one more low. But eventually we're going to possibly looks like we're going to squeeze in this region. I could be wrong. That's just an idea that I have going for the near future. But until then, those are the levels I'm looking for. Like I said, that $100 pivot for the DXY is going to be very important. I will have to see how that responds. Hitting me. Sorry about that. Who has a house phone in 2023? I still do. All right. Okay, so let's do the SPY. To do the SPY, yeah, I usually do the SPY. All right, so for the SPY, we have a couple things to consider. When I look at this from a larger perspective, larger macro time frame, one of the things that I do have to consider is that we do have a larger bullish A to a B to a C scenario. All right. So 362.87 was the pivot for that. You could see we put in a lower low, reclaimed it, and now we're on a stronger push to the upside. If we continue to swing to the upside, 462 is going to be the next area of resistance and ultimately the all-time high. If we do actually go ahead and put in new all-time highs, I'm going to be quite real with you guys and honest. That's going to be kind of scary, especially if we don't make a larger push. All right. If we get up here, reclaim that level, and if we push to the all-time high and actually make a run for it, that's going to be a little bit different. But if we show signs of weakness at that higher pivot, all right, and we actually reverse, that's going to be a little bit scary. The other reason why I say that is because we have a larger potential A to a B to a C scenario. All right. And I can tell you this, the last time this happened, if you look at this from a 2-day perspective, all right, I already have it drawn out, was back in 2003. We had a larger uptrend, a nice ABC pullback, continuation higher. We put in just the ever so slightly higher high, and then we had the recession. We had the true recession. The housing market crashed. Everything crashed after that ABC. So I'll be honest, this is the closest setup we've had similar to that in a very long time. So if we do put in a setup like that and we don't actually push through it with some strength and we just put in a slightly higher high and that's it, I'm going to be, there's some things to keep an eye out on and definitely be concerned for. So at the moment, we're just not there yet. I personally think that we have to just take it level by level. We have to see. Eventually, regardless of what is going on here, we do have one more possible, slightly more short to medium term bearish, longer term bullish option. Is that if we do not put in a higher high, we have a larger A to a B to a C scenario. All right. So once this ABC is put into place, we can consider a much larger potential move to the upside. I would consider this more of a healthy correction, but we're not necessarily there yet. That's going to be a more worst case scenario for the near to medium term time frame. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the SPY. It's definitely some things to be keeping an eye on as price develops in the future. For gold, the only thing that I'm really looking for at the moment is this ABC. As you can see, we're kind of playing around that 1960 level. We are slightly below, so that there is some higher chance that we do continue lower. The next area of support I'm looking for gold to test, if we do continue lower, it's going to be around 1803. If we just pull back and we continue to pump from here, I'm looking for ultimately the higher or the previous high or the all-time high to actually be reclaimed and broken. This will be part of a larger ABC within the C wave, which is something I mentioned, a couple times here in the stream, that we can get its own set of ABCs within a larger C wave in itself. So that's something I'm looking for as a potential as well. There's really no bullish options that's worth mentioning at the moment, unfortunately. Let's do silver. Okay, look at this. Look at this, guys. I've had this marked out since last week. So we do actually have a bullish setup for silver. So we put in a low retracement, lower low. So as long as we did reclaim that previous low, we're currently above it. So as of now, that's a potential good bullish setup for silver. So if we could stay above 2265, that's a good potential long position to at least test higher at around 2616. That's going to be a potential long position. We are currently under a macro A to a B to a C scenario, which is at around 2460. But it doesn't mean we can't reclaim that or at least retest it. So definitely keep that in mind. But until then, that's the only two positions, which is that bullish position here on silver and then our bearish ABC at around 2463. So, yeah, 24.55. Be a little bit more exact. Anything? All right, let's do BMW for Vlad.
Thank you.
All right, so as you can see, like we mentioned last time, we're gonna fight in this range, but we're actually still rising in an uptrend. So as long as we're above $100.72, as well as the previous resistance at around 104.78, I'm still looking for around 124.30. So if we can continue to pump, if we can hold this uptrend, I am looking for higher. But just keep in mind, if this breaks and we actually do end up breaking lower, I'm looking for a reclaim of that $100.72, which you can see highlighted, and that would be based off of this ABC here. But at the moment, I don't think we're currently there yet. We'll have to wait and see.
Summertime is coming and people should buy like more cars. That makes any sense at the moment. So it makes sense that it should go to the sea. But then when, I don't know, autumn comes or whatever, should drop like a rock or something like that.
Yep. That wouldn't surprise me one bit. So definitely 124 is definitely in the cards. Is there anything else? Does anybody else want me to look at anything traditional market wise?
Did you check BNB?
Yes, I did do BNB.
Oh,
yes.
okay. I was 1 minute away. And damn it, can you review it like in 1 minute?
Yeah. So pretty much BNB real quick. So we did put in a double bottom. Unfortunately, I wanted to see a lower low. If we can reclaim 220 and get back above, that's going to be a bullish ABC. But at the moment, we definitely can see a little bit more upside because of everything else is pumping. The only thing I will consider for the bears is if we continue to pump, 397 is definitely in the cards. But we do have to get through certain areas of resistance. The next stop is about 350, but that's pretty much the range. Anywhere from 220 if we can break lower, all the way up to 350, if not 397. That's the quick recap.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
No problem. All right, guys. Does anybody have any questions? I know it's a little bit of a smaller crowd today. That means I must be doing a good job.
Or people would like to enjoy the evenings or whatever the time zones.
That's true.
Summer, yeah.
It is summertime. It is summertime.
Yeah.
So I definitely. All right. And no questions, I guess.
I do have a general, quick general question.
Yeah, what's up?
With when you're dealing with harmonics or price action, that kind of thing, it seems to be more symmetry in the formation. Tends to get a better response for or more accurate response from price. Do you notice that at all with the ABCs?
When it comes to the actual setups themselves, it really depends on the time frame and the perspective we're looking at. A lot of the things what you'll see is that when it comes to smaller time frame setups, it can be a little bit more erratic, I would say. But what I tend to see more when you stick to the larger time frames and you stick to the larger setups themselves, there might be some areas to where price might fight in between, but overall, I think the setups are actually pretty well respected. And I think you can get a really good setups and really good trade entries as long as you play them right, and long as you stick to larger time frames, larger perspectives. Like I said, when you start zooming in and start focusing on smaller time frames, that where it can get a little bit more, like I said, a little bit more wonky, a little bit more harder to have price respect those levels, so the setups might not be as clean. That's not always the case. A perfect example of this, I would consider this still a decent size setup. is the actual low that we had. We had this A to a B to a C. The B didn't really form as well as you would like to see, but that doesn't really matter. It came back down, put in a slightly lower low below the C, and that's all she needed. Just a quick one and done. There's are some areas to where price sometimes fights, like our current position. I didn't get stopped out because I was using a little bit more of a larger stop loss, but you can see price was fighting in between until it actually put in that lower low, reversed, and decided to pump to the upside. So depending on where we're at, it sometimes can be cleaner than others, but I think when you stick to a larger time frame, the setups are a lot more consistent when it comes to how price respects it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's just interesting to me because when you start drawing ABCs and you see how they connect, sometimes it looks a lot like price harmonics, and obviously that with angles and stuff, it has to be very exact and very precise and that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, yeah, I get that. The problem is like when you start looking for exact scenarios to play out. Now, this is not just harmonics, this is with anything Elliott wave. Anything that's requires you to be a little bit more precise. The problem is price never exactly respects the levels. You kind of have to give a little bit of leeway. But the problem with that is that some of these systems, there's really no room for leeways. Because there's so many different variables, or maybe there's a certain set of rules that you have to follow in order for certain patterns to play out. Sometimes that might actually confuse you on your TA and what decisions you actually make. The reason why I love ABC so much is that it's based off of concrete levels. Once price establishes the setups, all you have to do is take the trades at the level, let price decide whether it wants to respect it or not, and then you can go ahead and take the trades from there. It's a lot more lenient when it comes to, and a lot more forgiving when it comes to the actual positions themselves. So that's why when it comes to, like, I know what you're talking about with harmonics, sometimes you have to look for certain variations or certain variables to happen. And sometimes if that doesn't happen, it might not be the harmonic you're looking for. But maybe in that scenario, the harmonic actually was the right one, but it just slightly different than what you were expecting. Because price isn't going to respect every single setup, every single variation, every single variable that you might have in your strategy. That's why it's always good to give a little bit of leeway to allow price to see if it wants to actually respond to those levels. That's the reason why I love ABC so much, because even though for how exact it is, if you set up your positions correctly, you can allow price to give a little bit of leeway, so you don't have to be so strict about what trades you're taking. Let me know if that makes sense, San Holo.
Yeah. So that's exactly what I was kind of looking for. It was just kind of one of those interesting things to me. As a
no, definitely. I definitely agree. All right. That was a great question. If anybody else has any follow-up questions, now's your time to ask. But if not, I give you guys the levels that I'm looking for. Remember, 3190. Actually, let me get an exact. So if we can get back above 3185 and then reclaim that level back below, that's going to give me a possible short entry. The only reason why I'm playing that is because this is the largest separation in trend that we've had throughout this entire swing up. And this has given me the largest clear, or the most clear ABC that I've seen in a very long time. So to me, if this is going to be the level, if we are going to reverse, this will be the setup to do so. If we fail, and if we break past 32K, then we can consider the bullish option. That's the reason why I took the long, is because I really don't know what's going to happen. But if we do get a clear break in either or direction, I'm prepared regardless, and I can take advantage of the possible swing. All right. I see you unmuted.
I did have one other thing. When you're talking about the positions you're taking, do you try and keep your longs and shorts fairly even as far as what you're doing, or do you lean one way or the other?
When it comes to like margin and risk size,
When you have multiple positions, right? You have 3 longs and 2 shorts, or do you try and keep them even?
okay, I see it just in general. So it depends. It depends on the setup. Sometimes they're pretty well balanced. Sometimes maybe I might have like maybe BTC and ETH might have a long position. And let's say I'm currently in a 88 short, BTC short, each short. If 88 doesn't give me a hedge position to follow up, I'll only take the 2. So sometimes it is uneven, but it's not like massively skewed. I don't have 8 positions on one side and have 1 position on the other side. It's pretty well even. I try my best to not spread myself too thin. The most coins, the most amount of coins I'll trade, maybe 4, most likely 3 to 4 coins at a time. The hardest part when it comes to doing so is making sure, because when you do, when you tend to trade more, coins, what ends up happening is that you end up spreading yourself too thin. So you'll end up using way too much margin, risking way too much at one time. And that's a big, I mean, unless you're actually reducing your margin size and risk size significantly throughout those positions, that's fine. But majority of the time, what I see is that people like to use, like for me, for example, I use a 3% stop loss using 3% risk of my account. If you try doing that on both sides on 3 different coins, you can see how next you're risking 18, almost 20% of your account in one set of trades. So I try my best to keep it even. The best way by doing so is not trading too much at one time. I'll limit myself to 3 to 4 coins at the most. And I'll just focus on BTC and ETH or Litecoin, regardless, depending on the setup. But it's pretty well balanced.
All right, great, thanks.
No problem. Thanks. Let's see. Johnny, unfortunately, David is not here. If you want to go ahead and possibly, Vlad, is there a place where you can ask? Because he asked a question in chat for a strategy, and I think it was meant for David. Vlad?
I was right now reading the question.
Oh, okay.
Is it a strategy that showing the English? I don't know. I'll check out. Definitely, I will check out and I'll let you know.
All right. Yeah, I'm sorry, Johnny. Unfortunately, I'm the wrong person to ask, and David's not here. So I'm sure Vlad can help you out.
Mhm.
Besides that, I think that's it. Let me go ahead. If you guys are interested in learning more from me, I do have my own YouTube channel. Let me go ahead and just change the windows quick. Where is it?
To answer your question, Johnny, David was using in the video the boilerplate version V5, which is currently not available as of now, but it should be available this evening, like pretty much at any moment David finishes. He just needs to upload everything. And in a couple hours should be live. I'm going to do an everyone message to let everybody know that it has been updated. So you have to bear on that for a little while.
Okay. All right. So hopefully, Johnny, if you're still in chat, if you're still here, Vlad just gave me an answer. Hopefully we'll be able to get that updated up for you shortly. There will be a message though.
Also, Johnny, I think you need to check up a little bit your mic. I think it's going away, like crackings and stuff, but off stream, of course.
Is it on Discord or is it on the streaming
Discord.
side? Really?
I mean, it's like boosting.
Oh,
Yeah, seem to get a little feedback.
that's why. It should be good now.
Thanks.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Sometimes my audio interface has got to unplug the cable and plug it back in. So if you guys are interested, if you guys aren't subscribed to me, my YouTube channel, I do stream 3 times a week. So if you guys want to get more up to date TA from me, up to date status of what is going on, like I said, I do stream. If you guys want to come by, ask any questions, talk about what possibly could be going on, give you guys updates from me. Would love to have you. But yeah, until next time, guys, I really do appreciate it.
Bye bye, everybody.
And hopefully, yep, I'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you.